I would bet anyone money that I was read to on the day I was born. As a member of a family who loves stories and the books that contain them, so many of my first memories revolved around them. Hell, I was even potty trained using books as an incentive. Books have always been and always will be a large part of my life. Every night as a child, my mom or dad would crawl into bed with me and read me a book. Between you and me, my dad was my favorite, because he wasn't as good as my mom was at coming up with different voices for the characters. Our bedtime ritual was filled with laughs because as hard as he would try, every character just ended up sounding goofy. My mom was much better. Her voices were creative and perfectly matched the characters she was trying to portray. My mom turned the books into something I could close my eyes and imagine was happening. Once I fell asleep, the books turned to dreams and I was one of the characters. This is a little embarrassing, but I still often pretend that I am a character in a book. It helps me get out of my own head for a little or go on otherworldly adventures. When I was about 5 or 6, I began to write little notes for my mom, but I, understandably, was not the best speller. I would often ask my older brother for help. One time I asked him how to spell love. I wrote up the note to give to my mom, added a few flowers and a drawing of my mom holding my hand, and gave it to her. Much to my astonishment, she started laughing hysterically. My brother told me that love was spelled F-A-R-T, so I ended up giving my mom a note that said, "I fart you, mommy." This began a chain of mistrust between my brother and I. Once I learned how to spell, for the most part, without the help of my brother, I wrote nonstop. Much of what I write about today is about things I experience, and the same applied when I was younger. I was an avid journaler, and I had notebook upon notebook of my childhood musings. My personal writing came to a halt when I entered middle school. I received A's on all papers I had written. I developed a knack for it, but I didn't write for myself anymore. I started writing again as a coping mechanism at age 17, 3 years after I was raped and physically abused by a boyfriend. After years of being alone with my secret, I ended up writing a letter to my parents telling them what had happened. Some things are too hard to speak. I don't share this to make people uncomfortable or to tell a sad story. I tell this because it's essential to understand why I became the writer and reader I am today. How I read and write is directly influenced by the things I have experienced. I believe that the way I write, and perhaps read, is directly correlated to who I am. At some point, I stopped writing about how I felt about what had happened to me, and I started writing about how the event hurt others in my life, specifically my mom and dad. This is about the time in my life where my writing turned to other people. I was more interested in writing about the characters in my life than myself. I don't think it's a stretch to say that literacy saved my life. One letter to my parents strengthened our relationship and set me free from the prison that I had built up around me. Without books and writing as an outlet for my loneliness and depression, I wouldn't be the strong woman I am today. I have been able to make sense of the things that have happened to me by reading about how others have overcome traumatic events and by writing about my own.